Hello and welcome to the latest FT Advisor 51 for 51 video series, where we interview women from across financial services. Joining us is Claire Trott. Previously Director at Technical Connection, she has now been given a brand new job as Head of Advice at St James's Place. Congratulations and welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. So Claire, could you tell us a little bit about your new role and what it will entail?
Focusing on the advice and the technical side of advice. So we have people who are doing the support to partners, and we've got people doing the policy as well. But the head of advice is more of a technical role, overseeing the technical support that we can provide to our partners, as well as doing things like this, so promoting the value of advice into the market.
Did you ever think that you would end up doing technical financial advice?
When I was sort of growing up, I was thinking I might be an accountant. I mean, who thinks that? But I did. I went on to study maths at university, and I literally fell into the world of pensions by answering an ad in the Brighton Argus, if anyone's local to Brighton, that said maths graduates wanted. That's all it said. And I got into it through pension review. And actually, pension review was such an intense period of time, learning about how pensions work, all the poor advice that had been given, and calculating redress for people and making sure people were put back in the positions they were. So it was sort of a baptism of fire into the world of pensions. And from that, I then trained to actually give the advice. I have been a financial advisor. I mean, I'm a regulated advisor again now, although I don't tend to advise very often, but I do have the capability should I be needed to. And I've gone from working in really closely on occupational pension schemes, defined benefit schemes, working all those details out and understanding all the background of how they work and how advice should be given on that, to then sort of flip into the world of self-invested pensions. And that was at the point SIPs became regulated. I actually moved over in late 2005 for the sort of the pension simplification 2006 world and all the technicalities that came with that. I have to say, I do remember someone in the office printing out the whole of the pensions tax manual.
How many trees did that kill?
Quite a few, only for them to instantly change it. So, thankfully they only did it once, and then it was like, please don't do that. If you just think about the amount of regulatory change that we've had since then, there's a reason I still have a job in pensions technical, because things are changing all the time, and it's understanding those changes and relaying those changes to people in a understandable format that is where I see myself.
I mean, talk about changes in the industry as well. I mean, now there are far more female financial advisors than there were back in 95, 96. How did you feel as a maths graduate? Were there other women as well going through pension review with you, or were you just one of a very small cohort?
Some of the business owners were female, which was really positive. But when I first started advising and we were going out and selling our advice side of things, which wasn't too far down the line, it was only 2 or 3 years later, I would be in a room at, say, one of the industry events. We'd have a stand and somebody would ask a question and you'd have to answer it. I had people walk round me to ask questions of other people in our business, only for them to turn around and go, well, I don't know, ask Claire, which is just hilarious to think about that now, when people would walk towards you as a woman now and ask you a question because they'd know who you were. But I still think people coming into the industry now, it's a much better place than it was. I don't think I was ever too challenged, probably due to my nature, and I wasn't going to stand for it. So no one ever really sort of tried to put me down, but I know people who did experience that, and it's such a horrible thing to see. Male and female colleagues all work together to make things better for people coming into the industry now.
And looking back, is there any advice you'd give to your younger self, starting either in financial advice or starting in pensions technical?
I think it would be finish my exams. So I qualified as a pension transfer specialist back in 2005, which I then stepped away and didn't finish my exams. It wasn't until I was challenged that I wasn't chartered, and I was talking to chartered advisors. So I went out and got chartered and finished that. But it's 10 years between me doing my last exam and then starting them again. And it was hard. I just think not stopping is a real positive. Get there, get your qualifications, but just when you get there doesn't mean you need to stop. I did a master's in finance, which again, I wasn't going to do. I'd like to say I was kind of dared to do it by my boss at the time. He said he'd pay for it. He put me forward for it. He challenged me to do it. And I really did enjoy it. It was an added bonus. It was lockdown, so I had some time. We know what we're talking about, but without my designations after my name, I just don't think people take you quite so seriously.
And maths is a wonderful subject to study. It's really interesting and so many different facets to it. But if you look at financial knowledge, you can be brilliant at maths but not actually have much financial nous. Government, present and past, they've been trying to push for greater knowledge of maths in schools up to A-level and beyond. But we still don't see a real push for financial knowledge. What sort of things are needed to drive financial resilience among young people and particularly women?
Maths is a great thing, but you don't actually need it day to day most of the time. Finance is very different. I think finance is much more important to people, because you need it to survive. Maths you can get round. There'll be people that that don't know how to add up. They won't have had to do it, and it won't be obvious. But you often see people that just don't understand finance, they don't understand saving, and starting that really young is really important. And I think there's a lot of things now that people do that we didn't have as kids. I used to be given a £5 note, as pocket money, and I remember that. And if it was a note, I didn't spend it. If it was coins, I would spend it. It doesn't make any difference. It's still money. Whereas now kids get cards, and their parents put money on their cards, and you don't necessarily see it in the same way, which is, it's a positive because it's safer. I will give it that, but having the ability to understand that what real money is, how you get it, how you save it, what happens when you run out. And I think that's a challenge that people don't always see. Some people will, they'll see it day to day because maybe their parents can't afford it, but for some people they won't get that understanding of what money is. And I think that's the starting point for finance, because I think that's a driver for good behaviour. Understanding what happens when you don't have the money can drive you to do that little bit of saving, and starting young is so important.
Claire, we're coming to the great wealth transfer, and lots of studies have suggested a lot of this money is not necessarily going to go down the generations, it's going to go to women. We're seeing far more business women, far more women who suddenly landed with a lot of wealth. They may not necessarily have financial nous. What do you see particularly are the challenges for women when it comes to suddenly handling all this money?
I think it's finding the right advisor. The really important thing when you do come into some money is to get advice and understand how to deal with that. So a lot of people will just put it in a bank account, I'll just spend it, and they don't know how long it's going to last, they don't know what to do with it, it'll be eroded by inflation. Investments are very scary for a lot of people. But with advice and having someone there by your side, helping you make the right decisions is really important. So we have a lot of female financial advisors out there who can just make people feel that much more comfortable. But there doesn't have to be a female advisor.
No,
getting a recommendation from somebody who uses another advisor, who is very in tune to what you personally might want to do, be that male or female, the person you're going to and the person that needs the help, is so important. And that's why there's such a breadth of advisors out there. And that can be a real game changer, that you click with them and then you call them about everything and they're your confidant, and you need to be able to tell them the truth. We all lie to ourselves about...
I hope we don't lie to each other.
We all lie to ourselves. I lie to myself about the amount of suits I like to buy or the amount of handbags I like to buy. But obviously I need them for work, and that's my excuse.
Of course. When
you're talking to someone about finance, you've got to be open and honest, and you can't do it if you don't like them.
You need that trust.
Absolutely.
That trust element. Now, when it comes to younger people starting in the industry, so many women I've spoken to who are financial advisors say this is a great profession for female financial advisors, particularly if you want to be self-employed or you go to an employer who's got very flexible working. What would you say to a young woman who's thinking, shall I go into financial advice or not? Maybe someone who's thinking about their career options.
It's still hard work, but you can make it work around you. If you're young and you're ambitious and you want to get out there and you want to make that network, networking is really important. And once you've got that network and once you've got that sort of credibility, then clients will come to you. Financial advisors can work all hours in various places. They can be taking the kids away camping and still be working as long as there's some Wi-Fi, and you can do all sorts of things. There are those options, and you're going to need your education. So getting those exams, getting that knowledge. And sometimes there's a lot of people I know have a niche. So we have niche people who are advising sort of divorcing females, or we have niche people who are advising just purely on like ISA money, for example, if they want to start in that area. So understanding what you want and how you want to do it, and what your goals are, really, really important. So it's having a plan.
Passion.
Yeah, and your passion, absolutely.
A plan and a passion. Well, I like that very much, Claire. Thank you very much for talking to us about your plan and your passion.
No problem.
For more information about 51 for 51, visit ftadvisor.com/women's-wealth. Until next time, take care.